We ready to start this meeting? So this is a meeting of the Committee of Budget and Fiscal Oversight. Our purpose tonight is to complete our recommendations on the fiscal year 22 budget policy guidelines. And this is the third meeting, so I'm going to start with a review of what we did. I'm going to share the screen because I think that'll be well, two things. So the first thing we want to do is review the worksheet where we took all the notes from the last two meetings and see if we want to have any changes to that. So I'm going to share my screen just so we can all be on the same page. It was, for those of you at home, it was linked to the agenda, so you can follow along at home if you would like to. Okay, there we go. Hoping everybody can see that. Okay, so let me just get started. And Anthony, if you could just keep an eye on the chat if anybody types any comments, because that's the one thing I can't seem to, don't have enough hands to do that. All right. All right, so let's get started. So this is I'm just going to go through and ask, and again, if anybody wants to speak, if you could use the raise your hand button on the, if you go to the participant screen, you can see that, or maybe at the bottom of your screen, just so, because it's hard for me. I can't see everyone at this point because I'm sharing the screen. So, all right. So does anybody have any questions on this 13 pages here? So does anybody have any questions here on this first page? Okay, hearing none. Let's go on to the next page, page 2. Does anybody have any questions on page 2? No. Hearing none. Let's go on to page 3. Does anybody have any questions on page 3? Okay, hearing none. Let's go on to page 4. Does anybody have any questions on page 4? Okay, hearing none. Let's go on to page 5. Does anybody have any questions on page 5? Okay, hearing none. Let's go on to page 6. Does anybody have any questions on page 6? Okay, hearing none. Let's go on to page 7. Does anybody have any questions on page 7? Okay, hearing none. Let's go on to page 8. Does anybody have any questions on page 8? Okay, seeing none, let's go on to page 9. Does anyone have any questions on page 9? Okay, Seeing none, let's go on to page 10. Does anyone have any questions on page 10? Okay, hearing none, let's go on to page 11. Does anyone have any questions on page 11? Councilor Cornelis.
Excuse me, can we go back to item number 4?
Okay, back to item 4 on page 10. Can you see that?
Yeah. Weren't items number 3 and number 12 and number 4 to be referred?
That's what we says right here. It says, if you read under item 3, it says recommend a referral.
Okay.
Oops, there it is. Right. So item 3, which includes 4 and 12, okay. Recommend a referral to the Human Services Committee to work with staff to determine what the unmet need is, and then determine if the unmet need can be met within the existing departmental budget or if additional resources are needed.
Great, perfect. I couldn't see it. Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, sorry if I'm going too fast, just tell me to slow down. So, all right, so everybody okay with that? So then let's come down back here. So this one, you know, again, number 5, we also recommended a referral, but, you know, also to the Personnel and Town Organization, encompassing 13, 14, and 15. Okay. All right, so ready? Are we ready to go on to the next page, everyone? Okay, let's go to page 12. John?
Yeah, thank you, Vinny. Just had a question on new item number 16 that I had brought up before.
Sure.
You stated that the committee would recommend that the Public Works Committee schedule a meeting to get an update on the project. Do you have any sense of when you might be thinking of having such a meeting?
Well, we can ask Steve Magoon's here. Would, you know, typically we would coordinate with him, see if he's, what his department schedule is. Steve, could you maybe weigh in on that?
Sure. I would expect probably within the next day or two, I'll send out a email to the subcommittee members with some information for the section within Watertown Square. I would expect that we can also touch base on this section of the community path as well as give you an update on the implementation of the Mass DOT grant through the Town Hall complex.
Great,
okay,
thank you,
yeah,
Steve.
so whenever you can pull that together, if you send it out to the committee, then we'll see about what we could schedule a date. Would you be having the consultant come?
Yeah, the consultant would come for the discussion of that first section, yes.
Okay, so we can maybe just do that all at once. All right, so we'll just try to have to find a date when that works. And John, I'm not, depending, you know, with Thanksgiving and then Christmas coming up, you know, we'll see if we can get it in. We may have to wait till after the first of the year, depending on what people's schedule is.
I appreciate that, and thank you. And one further question, though. I wondered how much money was set aside in the mitigation funds for the Criterion Riverbend project?
I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but it's around 300,000.
Yeah,
okay, wonderful. Thank you.
It was either 300,000 or 350, as I recall, back in 2008. So
yeah.
Okay, great.
Great. Okay, is everybody, any more questions on this page? Okay, and then let's just go, and then just the last page, at that last item. So, anybody questions on that? John, you could probably like lower your hand if.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
And I know it's like you got to remember to do a million things at the same time. I have to write notes to myself to remember to do everything. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions on that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen on that so I can get back to the gallery view. So I guess what I would say is that I guess I should be looking for a motion that the committee recommends the town council adopt the fiscal year 2022 budget policy guidelines as drafted. So
moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor is a roll call. Angie?
Yes.
Anthony?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. All right, that takes care of the first thing on our agenda. The second thing is, so we talked about the referrals on some of the action items. And there was two new referrals that we wanted to do immediately. And I think it would be good that we do an actual recommendation to the council as part of our committee report. So I think the first one would be that I'd be looking for a motion that says that the committee recommends a referral to the Human Services Committee to work with staff to explore expanding the capacity of the health department and determine what the unmet need is, and then determine if the unmet need can be met within the existing departmental budget or if additional resources are needed. So I think that's the motion we would make.
So moved, but can we link it actually to some of these new item numbers?
Well, it would be, I mean, it's in the worksheet will be, part of the report. So it'll be, that'll be sort of how this came about. So it's all going to be a part of the same committee report. Okay, so Councilor Canellis made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so for roll call, all in favor, Councilor Canellis?
Yes.
Councilor Donato?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So then the next referral, I just want to make sure that nobody has their hand raised. The next referral that we recommended would be about the issues of diversity, equity, inclusion. So I guess I'd be looking for a motion to recommend a referral to the Personnel and Town Organization Committee to work with staff to explore issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion within Watertown government, and determine what the unmet need is, and then determine if the unmet need can be met within the existing departmental budget or if additional resources are needed. So,
second.
Second, any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Councilor Canellis?
Yes.
Councilor Donato?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. There was another referral which was about the additional money for road construction, but that was conditioned upon the hiring of the new DPW superintendent and the new director of administration and finance. So I think it's probably better that we wait on that, because that's probably not going to happen until next year sometime. So we can make that referral next year when those positions are filled. So is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that takes care of the second piece, which is the referrals. All right, so we're ready and to go. The last thing we need to do is we were going to review the Sunrise Movement, Extinction Rebellion, Uplift Watertown emails. So as we talked about, I took all the sort of the notes we had, some of these were directly related to budget policy guidelines, and I tried to put the language from that in there, as well as some of them just try to find the some background to do that. So I put that together as a draft, and what I'm going to do is I want to share that screen. Let's see. Okay, so can people see that? Oops. Hold on a second. There we go. Nope, wrong one. Hold on a second. That's the one we want to look at. Too many windows open. All right, so what I attempted to do is, and to a certain extent it was easy because almost all the 25 emails were the same. So we could have sort of like a standard response for all of them. So this is how I proposed that we do it. There was 11, some had 12. Some of the later ones had 12. So I do want to, so just as an introduction, how we're adopting the budget policy. This is just sort of the background that we talked about in the first thing. And we did talk about that this is not the only mechanism for setting policy in a municipality. The town council can set policy by resolution, by ordinance, by order, or by a simple motion during any council meeting. So thus in developing this reply, some of the issues I identify as policy issues for the town council to take, as opposed to guidelines for the manager to use in developing the operating budget. And so for those of you who attended the previous two meetings, we had quite a bit of discussion about that, about how priorities are set within the town. So that's sort of the framework. And I just did them by order. So the first one is that town council declare a climate emergency. So this is a policy matter, not a budget matter. On January 8th, 2019, the town council unanimously adopted the resolution for the transition to 100% renewable energy. I was going to attach that to the response. And the language of this resolution basically serves as a declaration of the climate emergency in Watertown, what steps we're going to take. So everybody okay with that? Okay. Sure, Jennifer Smith.
Sorry, I didn't know if this was the appropriate time to speak, or did you want to wait until the end?
Did you have a question about this specific thing, or if you just want to?
Yes.
Okay.
So is this if my goal is to get the town council to reconsider this as this declaration as a policy matter, what would be the proper channel for doing that, or is this the final word?
So this is the policy document. Now, have you seen this yet?
The 100% renewable resolution?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I just don't agree that the language serves as a declaration of a climate emergency.
Okay.
And I'm just not sure, I want to be respectful and I want to, state my case in the proper forum. I'm just not sure if this is that. Or
sure. So this is, yeah, I mean, that's certainly, well, I mean, it is the policy document for climate change that the council has adopted unanimously. If there's something you disagree in it, or you think something else needs to be changed, certainly, we're not going to change it here. This is basically just a response to the people who wrote us emails. Yeah. The next, as you know, one of the steps coming out of this is the working on the climate and energy master plan. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if, the specific things you're concerned about would work in there or want to be addressed somewhere else. But, there's any number of ways you could address the council on this. But, this is, including, you're going to get this email as a reply, and you certainly could reply to that, asking for something additional. But,
okay.
Yeah, our goal was that, 25 people wrote to us.
Yeah.
And we feel like we have an obligation to actually attempt to answer every question that was asked of us as a matter of good government. So.
Sure. Okay.
But it's, and I see Caroline, Council Bays has her hand up. I'll get to her in just a second. But, this is, I would just say this, don't consider this the end of the discussion. Consider this the start of the discussion.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I just wanted to say that I feel like I'll be brief. One of the first things I heard from a councilor person when we started this campaign was that this town has a communication problem in terms of communicate, the town council seems to have very progressive policy, but there's some lag or some communication difficulties with some of the public, as evidenced by the kind of the opt-out, for example, on the electricity choice program. And I think that, language is very important. I feel like an average citizen doesn't understand what the implication of 100% renewable energy. And you may think that that's not accurate and that people do get it, but I'm very much convinced that people don't understand the urgency of the climate crisis, because if they did, everyone would be an activist. So I feel like declaring a climate emergency, like 16 other towns in this state have, sends a clear message to the public that there is a climate emergency. And then maybe perhaps they'd be more likely to do things like, opt up for the 100% renewable, plant trees, do whatever they can in their communities, come out on the streets with us. But I feel like that, the town, as leaders in this town, elected officials, you have a voice that people will pay attention to. And so that's the reason behind our request that you declare a climate emergency. Thanks.
Okay. Councilor Bays?
Yeah, so basically, Jennifer just said some of what I was going to say. I agree that that this is not a budget matter, but I don't really agree that this is a policy matter per se. Certainly policies would stem from this, but in and of itself, declaring a local, climate emergency is more of a statement of principle rather than policy matters. And I think that Jennifer's exactly right. That the transition to 100% renewable energy is the policy that stems from our understanding that there is a climate emergency, but we really haven't stated that there's a climate emergency, and I think that's a different thing.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, that's I see Councilor Gannon has his hand up too. Let's hear from him first. Good, John.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. And to follow up with Jennifer Smith and from Councilor Bays, I think, saying it specifically and boldly, would be a great thing for the town. But I want to follow up from our discussion from last week, when I thought it was helpful, Vinny, when you did talk about how policy emanates in Watertown, because there still are a lot of new folks who are participating in this meeting. So rather than, kind of give a bureaucratic response, which you're not doing, but saying, well, you picked the wrong meeting to come, I thought it was helpful last week where you stated X, Y, or Z would be your best avenues or among the many avenues. So if we could state that from the beginning, I think that would be helpful. And following up from Councilor Bays, I would definitely support such a declaration, but whether, this is a proper format or not, I would like to see that. But I think it'd be helpful to describe for lots of folks who are new to the process, what exactly is the process for advocating for their policy initiatives. So thanks.
Sure. So this, is a, so that the purpose of this referral was in these meetings is to develop the budget policy guidelines for the manager for the fiscal year 22 operating budget. So as I said, this is, I'm not trying to pass the buck here to anybody, but this is really a policy matter for the council to weigh in on. And if the council wants to adopt a local climate emergency declaration, that would have to come up through the legislative process, through the councilors taking the initiative on that. It really, that's just sort of how it works. And it's not, this committee is not making recommendations to do that, because this was not a referral to this committee to develop a recommendation on a climate emergency. We were, when the budget fiscal oversight committee talked about this, we just, we got all these emails about, developing the budget priority guidelines, and we just felt it's important to say, that this is not really what this document is about. And I'm not saying that it's not important, but this really just isn't. This isn't a budget matter to give to the manager. So this would have to be somehow the council would have to take the initiative to make this happen. And certainly, we can talk offline about how to do that. But as we do with any other policy directive. So Caroline, do you add your hand up again?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I was just going to suggest taking out the sentence, the language of this resolution serves as a declaration of a climate emergency, because I don't really think that's what they were asking for. The other thing I just wanted to say was, I thought that when I read the letter, it was really, the request was, we're asking you to use these ideas and concepts as your guiding principles for how you implement your budget priorities, as opposed to asking specifically to do these things. I could be wrong about that, but that's the way I read it. But I just thought, instead of that last sentence, you might do what Councilor Gannon said and say, please feel free to present this idea to the full town council or wherever they want to go with this, but give them an idea, give the group an idea of where they could go next. Since obviously you're not the right place to do this.
Yeah.
That I agree with.
So would people be happier just deleting that last sentence and says this matter needs to be taken up by the council by the town council as a policy matter? Would people be okay with that? Councilor Canellis, would you be okay with changing that last sentence there? It says the language of this resolution serves as a declaration of climate emergency. That we could say a declaration of climate emergency is a legislative matter that would have to be taken up by the council.
Fine.
Councilor Donato.
Fine with me.
So Caroline, John, would you be okay with that?
Yeah,
I think John had his hand up.
Yeah, I had my hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. I was writing. I wasn't looking. So go ahead.
No, that's you. And you're doing a fine job. I just want to clarify. Yeah, I raised my hand, but Caroline had talked about a lot of things I was talking about. The how-to, directing people to talk to a counselor, bring it up. There's a process before and at the end of every council meeting called public forum. Folks can come and raise any issue. They have a two-minute window to discuss. But I think even on this committee, there would be some folks willing to even sponsor such a resolution. So I think there are, just in terms of how to advocate for a policy, reach out to individual members of the council, show up a public forum, and all the other wonderful ideas that were discussed here. But I do think it helps to clarify what the process actually is for each of these items or in general. So thanks, Vinny.
Good. All right, so that takes care of number one. Are we ready to go on to number two? Number two was that
like Vinny might be frozen, but he usually bounces back pretty quickly.
So there was a.
We didn't hear you. You were frozen.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so this one, the adopt the Clean New Deal pledge. So I went on the website and looked at the Green New Deal pledge, and it really is intended for elected officials and candidates who are running for office, stating they're not going to accept any contributions from lobbyists or businesses lobbying for fossil fuel. So it's really not something that the town council would adopt, because the town council can't accept campaign funds as itself. So I think that this is, I think the principles are articulated in that resolution and serve as policy of the town, but I don't think that the town council could not adopt the Green New Deal pledge. So is everybody okay with that? Caroline, John, you held your hands up from before. Is that, I don't know if you wanted to speak again on this, but certainly if we didn't believe in the Green New Deal pledge, we wouldn't have passed the 100%.
Sorry, I'd raised my hand in error, so.
Okay.
Well, I did have a question. I'm not sure. It would actually be more for the people who wrote it. I'm not sure if they meant the Green New Deal pledge or the Green New Deal policy.
Well, I think it's both. So, if you go
that's what I was wondering. I don't know.
So if you go on the Sunrise website, they have a Green New Deal pledge that they ask all candidates for office to sign. I mean, that's what it is. And it basically says, I will not take any campaign contributions from fossil fuel lobbyists or businesses that are in the fossil fuel business. So, so that's the first piece. And then uphold the Green New Deal principles. The principles, are, the Green New Deal is basically 100% renewable energy moves our economy forward, is from both a an environmental standard as well as a job standard. And I think if you read through, we certainly reference, Massachusetts was ahead of the game on that back in 2008. The resolution that when Governor Patrick proposed this, he actually proposed it as a jobs program. So, and we referenced that in our resolution. So, Caroline.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I mean, it sounds like, so the Green New Deal principles, it sounds like something that actually could be part of number 1 as well, if we were to do that. And I mean, certainly we are acting on these things, and certainly we all believe this I mean, the entire town council is very committed to these, but it seems like we could just put that in with with number 1, any kind of declaration that we did.
If we want to, and again, I want to remind everybody as we go on to number 3, that we are going to, be spending the next several months to a year developing the plan, and the plan may say, have a lot of these elements in the plan based on input from the public. So, I don't want to presume what's going to be in the plan, but I think a lot of these things are going to be in the plan. So, but that's why we're going to develop the plan. So I think that's a good point. But let's. I mean, I'm in terms of how the language for number 2. So I just want to ask first, Angie, are you okay with the language of number 2? And Anthony?
Yes, I am.
Okay, John, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did. Just going through a quick summary of the Green New Deal principles. And I mean, it's essentially a 14-page non-binding resolution, calling for the federal government to create a Green New Deal. I mean, to the extent we say we support it, I mean, I think that would be appropriate and could be discussed as part of the
climate emergency.
Number 1 we talked about, the climate emergency.
Okay, we ready to move on to number 3? So number 3, we had quite a bit of discussion about this last, the first meeting. So we are moving forward with developing the plan. I'm not sure if it's going to be done by July. That's 8 months away. But Steve Magoon had mentioned that, you know, he thought it was a 9 or 10 month long process. So I think we're moving forward with this. So we, Angie, are you okay with the way it's written?
Yes.
And Anthony, are you?
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to number. Okay, and then this one, 3 had also had A, B, C, and D. So I tried to address each of those separately so that 100% of the power demand in Watertown be met by clean, renewable energy as soon as possible. So we did set a target of 100% for municipal electricity by 2035 and 100% for heating and transportation by 2050. Those are, you know, when we wrote the resolution, we thought those were fairly aggressive targets considering the technical challenges. Those were set as aspirational goals. Certainly we could change them in the plan, but that's just what it says. We are committed to doing that. So is everybody okay with A? Angie, you okay with this A here?
Yes.
Anthony, you okay?
Yes.
So that the new Watertown High School be net zero and maximizing energy, heat, water efficient. So this is maybe just a clarification. The school design and construction is under the control of the school building committee, not the town council. The school committee is responsible for the programming and operations of the schools, and town council is responsible for the appropriating funds. While the high school is still in the feasibility design phase, the school building committee has set a goal of the new building being LEED Gold certified and net zero energy in compliance with the resolution. So we have set that as a target, and I personally am committed to meeting that. So, so Angie, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Anthony?
Yes.
And then this follows up with the 3 elementary schools. And just, so for the Hosmer and Cuniff schools, the school building committee approved the design of both buildings to be LEED Gold certified and net zero energy in compliance with the resolution. And they're out to bid and the construction is underway. They'll be done in about a year. The Lowell School, which was built in 1927, will be renovated. And while it's not technically feasible to be a net zero energy building, it will be as energy efficient as possible. That's supposed to go to bid in December of this year. It would be expected that any future building projects would be in compliance with the resolution and any specific recommendations that would come out of the climate and energy master plan. So, you know, the first 2 buildings that we built after we passed the resolution are net zero energy buildings. And I will point out that they're the first 2 net zero energy certified public elementary schools in the state. And I think moving forward, we are committed to this. So Angie, you okay with paragraph C?
Yes, I am.
Councilor Donato, you okay with C?
Yes.
Okay, D, that an energy efficiency audit of all buildings be undertaken in fiscal year 22 and the city publish a plan of when it will upgrade and repair infrastructure. So this is a little bit long. So this has been an ongoing standard practice for the town of Watertown, which has a rolling 5-year capital improvement program, which is updated annually and reviewed by this committee. So again, the capital improvement program looks at all the major repairs and upgrades or construction projects in all our buildings. So every 10 years, Watertown hires an architectural firm to examine each public building and the need for potential repairs and maintenance, which includes upgrading building systems to current environmental standards. The last facility assessment and capital repair report was completed by GNAP Design on March 1st, 2017. So we are currently doing that. And I also want to let people know that one example, and this has been going on for years. One example is that in 2013, the town council voted for a $7.3 million energy service company project, which had a projected reduction of 22% of electricity usage and 32% natural gas usage. The ESCO project has a 20-year payback, and it includes a measurement and verification contract to ensure that the energy savings are actually realized. And part of this, in 2015, we hired a full-time energy manager to assist with this project and other energy-related tasks. So that was very ambitious, and that was, you know, we did that back in 2013. John, you had a question? Yeah,
I did, and related to this issue, Vinny, presently literally right now, the Town's Committee on Environment and Energy Efficiency Committee is meeting right now at a different Zoom. So a lot of the answers to the town's current, literally up to date actions with regard to exactly what you were talking about, Vinny, are being discussed right now. So maybe folks could go back and eventually check on the, I'm assuming that's going to be taped and available on Watertown Cable. Does anyone know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So folks can get folks viewing this meeting can go back and review what was discussed in the meeting that is currently going on with regard to the Environment and Energy Efficiency Committee. So just
and that's John, that is a great point that you raised, because so this ESCO program, this was an initiative that came out of the Energy and Efficiency, the Environment and Energy Efficiency Committee back in 2008. And they studied it for about 4 years. And then they came to the town council with a recommendation that we pursue this. And then the town council took it and actually turned it into a program and voted to move forward with it. So that energy service company project actually was an initiative from the WE3C committee. I also do want to point out that the resolution on the transition to 100% renewable energy, that started out as with a citizens group coming forward with the idea, and then it got referred to the WE3C committee, the Environment and Energy Efficiency Committee, and they spent several months sort of researching it and sort of writing the draft of the resolution. And then it came to the Joint Public Works and Economic Development and Planning Committee to write the final document. So it was actually, so that went from a citizens group to the citizen committee, the official citizen committee, to the joint committees of the town council to a vote of the town council. So just to give you an idea of how that policy came up, it was a bottom-up approach, not a top-down approach. So.
And I just want to add that I just checked on the agenda for the Watertown, the Committee on Environment and Energy Efficiency Committee. Among the agenda items for this night is a report from the energy manager, a report from the environmental planner, a discussion on the status of the Climate and Energy Action Plan, a report by Trees Working Group on meeting with the new tree warden, Trees for Watertown, report on composting and recycling, as well as working group reports on the net zero group, the resources group, the school building group, and the transportation group. So just a lot of these issues that we're just talking about recently are going to be brought up in real time at that meeting. So Vinny, I just want to point that out to folks.
Yeah. So that's so a lot of the stuff here, in terms of just, policy, in terms of how the town moves forward, a lot of that is embedded, and it gets actually brought forward from that committee to the council. So. All right, so Angie, are you okay with the D?
Yes, I am.
Anthony, you okay with D?
Yes.
All right. And then 4 is to write an annual report on the climate actions taken. And if you look at the resolution, actually that is one of the things that requires the town manager to provide that annual report. So that's, just want to say that's already in there. Angie, you okay with number 4? Angie, are you there?
She's on mute, Bhavini.
On mute. She's gonna unmute herself.
Okay, Anthony, are you okay with number 4?
Yes.
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, give you time to read it. I'm not trying to rush it through or anything. All right. So number 5 is that the climate and ecological emergency be incorporated as explicit criteria in all decisions making process related to acquiring goods, services, or works from external sources. So really, I think the master plan that's going to be developed will sort of lay out. The master plan was more sort of a goal. The resolution was sort of a goal. The master plan will actually flesh out specific policy recommendations. So whatever that comes out of that is really what is going to become specific policy for the town administration to follow. Anthony, you okay with the way that's worded?
Yes.
Okay. Angie, you're okay with the way that was worded?
I have my hand up.
Okay. Oh, okay, Caroline. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I mean, it is almost certainly that this is going to be in the climate and energy master plan. But you could actually say this will likely be a specific policy recommendation. However, we could revisit this if it is not, or something like that, just so that people understand we're not trying to avoid it. You know, it's just that it probably already is going to come before us as a recommendation.
There's going to be so many. This is going to basically, I believe, that this climate and energy master plan is going to really touch almost every department, you know, every department's policy somehow. I
totally agree.
Right.
I'm not saying this because I don't think this is going to be in it. I'm saying it so that it doesn't appear like we're trying to avoid anything. It's like this is already being done, but we certainly could revisit it if it's not.
Did we? Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So I'm not trying to stop anything. I just trying to provide some contact. This is already a 6-page letter. I could have trying to keep some of it short. So Angie, are you okay with the way number 5 is written?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. And again, like I told Jennifer, this is the start of the discussion. This is not the end of the discussion. So I want everyone to keep that in mind. Okay, number 6. This changes gears a little bit. That the town address the structural, interpersonal, and hegemonic racism through the town by conducting research, publishing reports, and come up with the comprehensive plan. So we had a lot of discussion about this. With those new items that were raised in the budget priority guidelines. So we're going to move forward with that recommendation to create this referral. And then the personnel and town organization can actually delve into this and figure out what needs to be done and how we're going to do it. So, so that was right out of the budget policy guideline worksheet. So is everybody okay with the way this is written?
Yes.
Yes.
Anthony? Okay. Okay. So that one. So we talked a little bit about housing also, and during the budget policy guidelines. So just the town create affordable, sustainable, and subsidized housing to meet the needs of all community members. So town of Watertown currently creates affordable housing 2 ways: through buildings owned by the housing authority and through the private sector with inclusionary zoning, which is currently at 15%. In addition, private nonprofits such as Metro West Collaborative Development create affordable housing in Watertown using a variety of federal, state, and local funds. The Community Preservation Act, adopted by the voters in 2016, is a surcharge to the property tax that provides local funds for affordable housing. In addition to open and recreational space and historic preservation, the town council made a referral to gather data on the present affordable housing stock and gather opinions from residents, advocates, and developers regarding potential opportunities to increase affordable housing stock to the Human Service Committees in March of 2018. They've held 14 minutes so far, and the Human Service Committee will be presenting a final report on affordable housing to the town council for policy action sometime next year. So that's just sort of where we are with that. You know, we're still waiting for the final policy recommendations to come out of that. So John, you had your hand up on that?
I did. Thank you, Vinny. I just wanted to point out that the Watertown Housing Partnership is also involved in administering affordable housing programs with the town. So they're presently administering, in cooperation with the West Collaborative Development, a short-term affordable housing assistance program. That's the funding comes from the town's program interest on the federal community development block grant that the town receives from the federal government, and in addition to additional funds, some of which were donated by the Watertown Community Foundation and other community support groups. So I just wanted to add that the Watertown Housing Partnership does also play an important role. I think that should be added to your text.
Sure. Yeah. So maybe right after here, maybe right here, before we talk about nonprofits, we talk about the Watertown Housing Partnership.
That's right. And they are in a committee of the town. So they do play a town-centered role and play an important role in that.
They administer funds and do planning. So I'll add that in there.
Thank you.
All right. So let's see. So Anthony, are you okay with that reply with the added Watertown Housing Partnership language right here after that 15%?
Yes.
Angie, would you be okay with that? Okay. Okay. Let's go down to number 8. That the town provide better mental health services and preventive health care such that we no longer rely on police as behavioral health care providers. So I just want to clarify that the Watertown Police Department does not provide behavioral health care, and that the police department contracts with Advocates, Inc. for a jail diversion program with the 2 mental health clinicians. And the second one was added during the fiscal year 21 budget process on June 29th of this year. The clinician's role is not to provide treatment, rather to assess individuals and, if appropriate, refer them to treatment facilities as opposed to processing them through the criminal justice system. So this is also related to number 9 below, which also talks about the referral to the Human Services Committee. So I just wanted to just be clear that the town of Watertown does not provide healthcare services. It does not provide treatment. So if people want to maybe just look at number 9, because they are sort of related, 8 and 9 together. That the town increased funding for substance use rehabilitation, preventive care, and addiction services based on data regarding the impact of opioid epidemic. And again, just for clarification, the town of Watertown does not provide treatment services. Rather, the town has social workers who can assist individuals and refer them to treatment facilities. And the Watertown, yes, John, I see your hand up. Let me just go through this real quick.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'd rather you go first.
That's okay. About the fire department, police department are both able to administer Narcan in emergencies until the individual can be transported by ambulance to a facility for treatment. As you know, we raised this issue last Monday, and making the referral to expanding the capacity of the health department. and recommend a referral to the Human Services Committee to work with staff to determine what the unmet need is, and then determine if it can be met within the department budget or if additional resources are needed. So those two kind of go together. I know it's a little complicated, but I just want to, so let's go back to 8. So John, you had a question on 8.
Yes, please. So I just want to clarify that there is a role for police departments with regard to involuntary civil commitments. So folks expressing elevated mental health levels such that either a psychologist or a police officer determines they're a danger to the community or themselves. So maybe some of the other members, participants can discuss the statute. I think it's section 35 might be, but I do want to clarify that there is that role that police departments are mandated to perform. So I think we should clarify, we should add that in there, that the police department doesn't just provide diversion, but they do play an active part in not preventing or acting as behavioral healthcare providers. They are required to be there under that statute. So, but I think there is a way, the town does have access, or the police department has access to mental health providers. One was just added to this budget recommendation, this FY21 budget. But I do want to clarify that section 35 does require involvement of the police department in involuntary civil commitments of folks who have mental health disorders or addictive situations that someone determines causes that person a danger to themselves or to others. So I think that should be stated on the record with regard to involvement in police departments in these matters.
Section 35 of what?
I don't know the chapter number, but I just know the process is referred to as section 35ing a person.
Yeah. And just, yeah, and the from a practical matter, when somebody calls 911 and says there's a person doing something, the 911 caller is not in a position to say, well, this person has a mental illness or this person is acting with criminal intent. And so the police often have to respond to determine what's going on. And if they respond and they realize it's a medical emergency or a mental health issue or a substance use issue, then they can call in the clinician from Advocates. They can call in the fire department with an ambulance to provide treatment. But that's sort of I like to think, Watertown's a very small town to begin with, and everything is a team effort. We don't have, when there's a fire, the police respond to that. The police and the DPW respond to a fire. We're small enough that we don't have enough people that everybody sort of works together. So anyway, so we can add that in there. That's section 35. Maybe we would add that.
Council Bays just clarified that the chapter number is chapter 123 and the section is 35. That's the commitment statute.
Should we add that? Should we add that right here at the very end? Would that make sense? So I'll add that chapter 123, section 35 language.
I mean, I guess I'm just confused because if the police are making a decision there, or determination, they're not providing behavioral health care. But I think the language as written, fine, because whether or not they're taking a role under section 23 has nothing to do with section 35 has nothing to do with.
I think if this goes back to, and actually if you could look at the second email, that actually talks about I think it's number 3, you know, it's like about taking sort of the health, this sort of the social workers out of the police department. And the reality is they work as a team with the police department because they're the first responders. And I just think that, you know, to John's point, that's a good clarification that they actually have a statutory, the police department actually has a statutory role to play in this, you know, so I see Councilor Canellis had her hand up.
Yes, I think we're actually getting a little bit too technical here, because had Attorney Gannon not actually spoke up about chapter and verse, I would not have been aware of it. And I really don't think that that's the intent of this particular committee. I think that Councilor Piccirilli has done a phenomenal job and put in an inordinate amount of time compiling all of this. But I think we should stick to the basics and not get into specific policies of the police department and requirements of the police department.
May I be heard, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
So and I'm not criticizing Vinny's compilation. I mean, he did a phenomenal job, but if we're going to say something that the police are involved in this, they're not involved in that. Section 35 is a part and parcel of a required response in terms of mental health emergencies, that if we're going to add anything, you know, or limit another, it's important to clarify that that's one of the missions of the police department. It can be a very difficult involvement by the police department. I've been involved directly in these situations. So to say that the police department performs one role and not the other, I think we're losing, and just adding a sentence would clarify that. I think we're more stating the reality of the situation that the police department faces.
Yeah.
But I think to Councilor Canellis's point, I mean, the police department has so many duties that if we can't be listing all of them. I think I understand what you're saying, John, about they do this, they don't do this. But if we're specifically referencing one thing, we might be excluding a significant number of other responsibilities that the police department undertakes. I kind of agree with Councilor Canellis here. I think we're just getting a little too deep in the weeds, and we're starting to, you know, reference a lot of things that might be part of the referral that was already made to Lisa's committee, or that might come out of the referrals that are coming out of this committee. So I just think,
yeah, actually, I mean, I could go either way on that, but that's a good point that, you know, once this gets referred to the Human Services Committee, that sort of the role that the police play with, you know, within that section 35, you know, can sort of be fleshed out there. I was just trying to, I mean, I would be happy to put in a brief sentence about the responsibility of police under responding to mental health issues under section 35, or I could leave it out and that could be taken up during the committee referral. So I could go either way on that. It doesn't really matter to me.
A final thought. I mean,
I have my hand up.
Yes, Councilor Canellis.
I've had it up.
Okay.
I mean, I can't vote on something if I don't even know what the chapter says. I'm not familiar with the chapter. I'd be more comfortable voting in generalities here.
All right, so let's if it's okay with everyone, that whole section 35 responsibility can be fleshed out during the committee meetings. We don't need to go into detail here. I think it doesn't really change the meaning of the response, but certainly that greater level of detail, the committee can certainly go into that when they examine this. So is everybody okay with that? Then we just leave it the way it is?
I just raised my hand again.
Sure, John.
So my concern is that if we're discussing, well, the police department doesn't have such a role in mental health issues, so that's not intellectually honest, because the police department does play a role in mental health issues.
Yeah, I think it was specifically said behavioral health care providers, and it's not, you know, this is not the police department is not a healthcare provider. You know, no. They play a support role, you know, to identify people and move them someplace where they're going to get that healthcare provided elsewhere. So So we can, but again, there's going to be plenty of opportunity during committee meetings to discuss the nuances of this and what needs to be done. So I'm comfortable that the Human Service Committee will be able to really dig into this and explain it in much more detail than just sort of this 2-sentence answer. So
yeah, I'll back off. I'm a member of the committee, so I will back off.
Yeah, John, you can get elbow deep into this. So,
thank you.
All right, so Angie and Anthony, are you okay leaving number 8 as it is?
Yes, I am.
I mean, if John has a problem with the specific behavioral health care, maybe we just say, for clarification, the Watertown Police Department does not provide healthcare, is not a healthcare provider. If his specific concern is with the behavioral health care.
Well, I mean, that's what it said. The first sentence says that does not provide behavioral health care.
No, I understand, but I think John's, one of John's sticking points was that he didn't feel that statement was honest. So what I'm saying is, if we just say the Watertown Police Department is not a healthcare provider, then that removes the sentence that John had, or the portion of the first sentence that John had.
Well, whether it does not provide healthcare is not a healthcare provider, I think is the same thing.
I agree with you, but Councilor Gannon specifically pointed out a problem he had with that.
Yeah, but again, Section 35 doesn't task the police department with providing healthcare. It provides them with providing a response to people and in need. And they're going to make the clinician's going to make the decision about whether this person needs care.
As is, I was just trying to see if there was a way to satisfy council.
Yeah, I'm okay. Let's just leave it. If everybody's okay with just leaving it the way it is, and we can work on the details in the committee meeting. I think we just gotta move on from this one.
Yeah, and I'm good with that. It'll be fleshed out in committee.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. So again, this goes back to number 9. Number 9 sort of restates it in sort of a different way and talks about the referral. So is everybody okay with the way number 9 is written? This talks about the referral. Angie, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Anthony, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that takes care of that. So number 10, that the Watertown Public Schools hire more Black, Indigenous people of color, guidance counselors, and other mental health care providers, such that every student has access to care wherever they require. And I know David Stokes here, he's on the school committee, and there's a number of students and stuff. Please don't take this that we're passing the buck here, but state law is very clear, Chapter 71, Section 34, that the school committee is responsible for programming, operations, and budget of the schools, acting through the school superintendent, not the town council, the town manager. So any requests regarding things that go on in the schools needs to be brought to the school committee for action. So that's just, it's not a cop-out, it's just that's actually the way, there's a separate elected body that manages the schools. So Angie, are you okay with that?
Yes, I am.
Oh, and Anthony?
Yes.
Okay. And so this is about communication. We've had lots of discussion about communication. So, so we did make that referral to seek, this referral to seek potential options for increased participation in government and for methods to reach out to the community was made to the Media and Public Outreach Committee in February 2018. They've held 20 meetings on the subject since. In addition, in fiscal year 19, we do have a budget policy guideline to move forward with a townwide information assessment to review the acquisition, distribution, and management of IT resources, including staffing levels and positions to required to support the IT environment and improve communications with residents. So this assessment was completed in December 2019. The new position of the Chief Information Officer was hired starting October of 2020. This work is ongoing, and we had discussed this quite a bit in the budget party guideline item 2D. So I think that's, is another, a little bit more down at the bottom here. So that's sort of just a synopsis of where we are. John.
Yes, thank you, Vinny. So with regard to the Chief Information Officer, I know that Council President Sedaris had talked about the CIO appearing before a future meeting of the Watertown, the Charter Review Committee. And folks might want to turn into that meeting to see what the services of the IT, of the CIO will be provided. Does anyone know if that's on tomorrow night's agenda?
I don't have the tomorrow night's agenda in front of me, but if it's not on tomorrow night's agenda, it'll probably be on another night, because I know that that was a hot topic, both getting the website piece working as well as working on the communication to residents. So,
and that seems to be the first public rollout of the CIO's role with regard to increasing communication in the town. So,
he's going on. Yeah, he's only been here a couple of weeks, so he's already got his hands full with a lot of other stuff. And again, just so the people listening at home or on the call, you know, we've just the fact that, you know, we made this referral back in 2018 and we've been sort of working towards it since 2018. You know, it's been important for us. So Anthony, are you okay with the way that that's written?
Yes.
Angie, are you okay with?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Number 12, there was a handful of emails came in after November 1st that had this one in here, that the town create a committee or subdivision concerning two-way communication between the town council and residents of different races, ethnicities, socioeconomic status, etc. So that's really sort of part of the number 11 above that we just talked about. It's not, you know, all those things, you know, we recognize we need to do better outreach to different groups of people. There's some people who are heavy users, you know, they're involved in everything. They know everything that's going on in town. There's some people in town that have no idea what's going on. So we really need to do that. So I think our response for number 11 incorporates that. So Anthony, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Angie, are you okay with that? Okay. So then on November 8th, we got this additional letter from Uplift Watertown that said revised the bands of 6 through 11 into 4 separate ones. So this was set aside $15,000 for a consulting firm to examine systemic racism in Watertown. So we already addressed this in item number 6 above with the referral to the committee. So, and that this email came in before we had the discussion last Monday. So I think it's more of a timing issue. So I'm okay with, so Anthony, are you okay with saying refer to item 6 above?
Yes.
Angie, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, number 2, this kind of goes back to the housing that we talked about in item 7 above. The question was specifically what will be included in this budget cycle. So there are no direct appropriations for affordable housing in the town's operating budget. However, in fiscal year 21, that's this current year, the town council appropriated $260,000 from the Community Preservation Fund into the Affordable Housing Reserve. Last year, that was $248,000. It goes up a bit every year. And then the rest of it is, you know, we're waiting for the sort of the committee recommendation on policy going forward. Caroline, you got a question on that?
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to just add the Watertown Housing Partnerships Emergency Rental Assistance Program. You don't have to.
Yeah, that's really off the budget. That was done with other funds. I think that I mean, the number 7, we talked about the Watertown Housing Partnership doing that. So, but I just want people to know that there's no direct appropriation from the operating budget, but there are affordable housing is exceedingly complicated, and the money comes from a lot of different places, but usually not the operating budget. So Anthony, are you okay with the way that was written?
Yes.
Angie, are you okay with the way that's written?
Yes.
Okay. And then, okay, number 3, $450,000 to hire mental health clinicians for programs outside the Watertown Police Department. And again, this is, we addressed this in items 8 and 9 above. So Anthony, are you okay with that response?
Yes.
And Angie, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll work through that on the Human Services Committee. And then the last one, the very last one is that set aside $450,000 for clinicians or social workers for the high school and middle school, so that there are 2 in each school to support students, guidance counselors with a focus on BI, POC counselors. So again, this goes back to item 10, that if this were to be done, it would have to be done through the school committee and the school department. So the town council really doesn't make any staffing or policy decisions for the school department. So Anthony, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Angie, are you okay with that?
Yes.
And then it was just a closing paragraph. I just tried to write something. It's encouraging to see residents take an interest in local government and want to get involved and work for positive change. While there's so many ways residents can get involved, the committee encourages residents concerned about the impact of climate change to participate in the development of the climate and energy master plan. While the schedule for the community forums has not been set, please check on the town's energy and sustainability page for further information. So that's the link to that. And we do want to thank, and I personally want to thank all the people, both the students and the adults who took the time to attend these committee meetings and actually participate in the process. And it would, and my intention was that this letter would be sent on behalf of the committee by the 3 of us. So, Councilor Canellis.
Thank you. I think it's appropriate time to actually commend Councilor Piccirilli at this point, who took the initiative in great detail to respond to all of the queries set forth by folks who he so graciously thanked for joining us. And I also commend the folks for taking an active interest in our community and bringing these questions forward. But from the outside looking in, it might seem as though this is a very easy task to accomplish, but it isn't. It's very time consuming. Many hours went into it for Councilor Piccirilli to do this. Just the research of it alone, and to get all the facts and details involved, and to put it in a concise presentation. And I think we should all be offering gratitude to him for undertaking this project, because not all of us can actually put the time into it that he did. I mean, we have to keep in mind that we are part-time counselors trying to split our time with everything. So whenever a piece of communication goes out and then 5 pieces of communication come in that need to be addressed, it's not an easy task to do. So thank you. Thank you, Vinny.
Thank you so much, Angie, for those words. So Anthony, are you okay with the way that this is wrapped up here?
Yes, very, very appreciative of all your work, especially in light of the fact I am the committee secretary, and if it wasn't for yeoman's work you did on this, then
okay, thank you. Councilor Gannon, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Vinny. And I want to concur with the thanking you for the efforts you put in. It's a masterful document, and you've called many different policy dimensions into your committee report. And I also want to thank your colleagues on the committee, Angie and Anthony. You've done a great job, and there's a lot of great deliberation. And I thank you for indulging me in getting involved in my time as a first-time counselor in this committee process. So thank you all. And also thank you to the new members who were inspired to get involved in this process. And as Vinny stated, there are other methods of getting involved, advocating for policy positions within the town council. I think Vinny has been very clear and open about that, stating those options. So, but in general, I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, and the members of your committee.
Thank you so much, John. I truly appreciate that.
Vinny, if I could interrupt for a second, I just want, there is one comment in the chat from Jennifer Smith thanking Councilor Picciarelli. Your response to our emails has been extremely encouraging and offer a wonderful experience for the students in particular.
Good, and that's it, and it's. I mean, it is. It's important. I know a lot of these young people. I know a lot of their parents, and it's good that it's a great experience. And part of what we do as counselors, a lot of our job is educating people about how things work, so how the government works. So I hope all the young people here sort of appreciate the complexity of what we do in terms of running the town. So Caroline, I see you have your hand up.
I just also wanted to mention, in addition to this, just all the work you did with the budget and that all the counselors did with the budget. It was, I know how much work it is, and it was, really impressive to watch you go through it all just so methodically and thoroughly. So
and I appreciate that. And one of the things, just for the members of the audience, is one of the things that is sort of we do here in Watertown, sort of a hallmark of the council, is just the level of teamwork that we work together. In some cities, city councils are stabbing each other in the back, trying to promote one-upsmanship. In Watertown, we actually work together as a team. It is just so refreshing to live someplace where people are really committed to the concept of teamwork, and it makes it such a better place to live, and it makes the job, very satisfying to do it. So I do want to acknowledge all my colleagues on the council, as well as in the administration. Let's not forget Mr. Driscoll, Mr. Magoo, and Mr. Tracy are here, and they've spent a lot of hours listening to us and being prepared to provide answers to us. But so we really do work. Yeah, it's amazing what we are able to achieve when we work as a team. So I will leave that as the last parting remark. I would like to formally get a motion to.
Just before we make that motion, I just wanted to, just for the record, state that I did not receive any emails during this from any members.
Okay, good. So I think last thing is we do need a motion that the committee will authorize me to send this reply as reviewed.
So moved.
Okay. Okay. Roll call. All in favor? Angie?
Yes.
Anthony?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. Okay. Any final comments before we adjourn? John, was your hand up from before? Or did you just put it up? You're on mute, John.
Sorry about that. No, I had my hand raised from a prior.
Okay. No.
Sorry for
that. No. Did anybody from the public want to make any comments before we adjourn?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks. You guys did a lot of work. I think you put a lot of work into that response. A lot of the issues seem to be beyond your committee, but I think you did a lot of work on that. It's really pretty impressive.
Thank
I don't
you.
know how you have time to do it all. Thank you.
Just never sleep. That's the
Yeah.
easy. Okay. Hearing no further comments, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we need a roll call. Angie?
Yes.
Anthony?
Yes.
And myself is yes. So that's okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, my committee members. Thank you, members of the council. Thank you, Mr. Driscoll, Mr. Magoon, Mr. Tracy. And thank you all members of the public for coming and participating and listening to this.
Good night, all.
Good night, all. Thank you so much.